Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Growers Live. I am Josh Satin and have two very special guests tonight. We have Beau and Paul of Mountain Roots Farm in Tennessee. Very excited to have them on. Both very cool dudes, and they run a really cool farm. I don't have a ton of announcements other than hopefully you guys got a chance to check out Jesse's mini series that he did in the last 4 weeks, and really, really cool. And I just want to sort of recognize that because it was a really cool thing that Jesse did, and some really, really awesome content out there. Hopefully you guys got a chance to pick up Jesse's book as well. If you haven't, I think it's currently back ordered, but we're getting more in, so go to no-tillgrowers.com and order through there. That way the proceeds will help no-till growers. Also, I always forget to tell you this, but this show is also available in podcast form. So if you want to listen to an older show or listen to this one or whenever, you can download any of your podcast apps. It's Growers Live, so you can find it in there too. So other than that, guys, I think that's about it. And I'm going to get Beau and Paul in here because you guys aren't really here to talk to me or listen to me. So let's get them in here. Good evening, guys.
Hey.
Hey, Josh.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
That's awesome. All right. So I don't know if if a lot of people know about you guys. So if you guys could just talk a little bit about where you are, what you do, your farm. And I know we're going to get into a lot of the details because you guys are moved farms or kind of in between or whatever.
Right.
But can you guys talk a little first, just let people know where you are, what you guys do, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we're located in Sevierville, Tennessee. As of right now, we're moving to Knoxville, which is our primary market. So we're in Eastern Tennessee, Zone 7A, I believe we're in, and we run we're in our fourth season, and we run a 1/4 acre market garden, very kind of standard 30-inch beds and relatively narrow paths. They vary from 14 to 16. We grow under a lot of tunnels, and we're setting the new farm up in that manner. We're going to have about 5 of the Farmer's Friend Caterpillar tunnels set up, so about 500 feet, and then also 2 30 by 96 high tunnels, and that'll be about half of our production space, and so we'll probably be on anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of an acre basically at the new farm. So, close to tripling our production space.
Very cool. All right. So I know you guys have interesting backgrounds, like most farmers that I tend to meet have pretty interesting backgrounds. And we actually got to meet, it was almost 2 years ago. I know we were just talking about this off air, but man, 2 years ago feels like more than 2 years ago. And we got to meet at the first No-Till Growers workshop event, one of only 2, and then COVID. So maybe we'll do them eventually. But you guys, can you talk a little bit about your backgrounds? Beau, I know we have something in common. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit first, but I know when we met, we were at a brewery, and then we were talking about brewing. So can you talk a little bit about that?
And drinking a beer too.
I mean, what do you do at breweries other than hang out with your friends?
Yeah, that was So that's how I ended up in Tennessee. I went to brewing school in Chicago, and I think I was 24.
You went to Sevierville?
Yeah, I went to Sevierville. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep. And, I had no experience prior to that at all in brewing, but I went to school, got my job basically for going to Sevierville and moved to the Smoky Mountains in the tourist town of Gatlinburg. There was a small brew pub that had a lot of, the Smokies have a lot of people coming through it every year. So I got a job as the head brewer right out of the bat at that brew pub, just kind of thrown into it. They needed someone, and I hit the ground running, had a great guy train me, but then I was brewing within a week by myself and went on from there and brewed for several years. And then I think I brewed for like 5 or 6 years, and then left and went to Colorado. And in Colorado, I was fortunate to, same thing, kind of just randomly became the head gardener, groundskeeper of a high-end luxury ranch kind of in the middle of nowhere on the western slope in Colorado, but I had a great mentor there. It was at 7,200 feet. It was a pretty small garden, but small kitchen with a chef. So I worked with him, what he wanted to grow. But my mentor was a lady named Carol Sikora, and she's been market farming for 30, 35 years. Her market was in Ridgway, Colorado, and just learned a ton of stuff from her and really got the bug in growing food. Then moved back to East Tennessee, which is, Paul and I met here back in, I think in 2007 or 8 when I moved down here. And so my daughter just ran in. And got the brewing job back again, but then Paul and I have always wanted to do something in ag together. And, he'd been reading a bunch of Joel Salatin books and Elliot Coleman. And I was out there learning how to just grow some things and, just collectively doing research on everything. We wanted to do something in the farming space, and market gardening was, the quickest way to generate cash flow with a small amount of overhead. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I also lived in Colorado from 2005, 2010. So there you go, Beau. Another.
Oh, hey. What part?
Boulder. I was teaching high school at that point. I was teaching in a Denver suburb and living in Boulder, and I love Colorado. I love living out there. Okay.
Western slope, like middle, like Paonia outside of Grand Junction. Anyways.
Cool. Yeah, very different world out there for sure. So how did you guys connect? Did you guys know each other before you'd moved to Tennessee, or how did that happen?
No, we connected. Beau was working at this brewery, and my now wife was bartending there, and they kind of met first, and then one thing led to another, and we were just hanging out and had common interests, hiking, and just enjoying the beautiful area here, and so yeah, that's kind of our background. I was in the restaurant background as well. Had some restaurant background up in Gatlinburg as well before I got into doing the tree service. But yeah, so.
Cool. So, or it sort of happened organically, and you guys had common interests, and you guys jumped into market gardening. So, one of the cool things, there's a lot of cool things about your story, but one thing is that this is really a joint venture, and you guys have really approached it that way the whole time. And I don't hear about that a lot, other than couples, married couples that are going into it together. So, can you talk a little bit about so how many years? And I want to talk about your transition out to your new farm, but how many years were you at the other place before?
Let's see. Our first harvest at the old farm was in, I think, November of 2017, and it was just a couple carrots, a couple radishes, and then maybe some spinach. And we went to we went to a winter farmers market in Knoxville that year. Actually, the market we're still at. We were fortunate enough to get in there. And then 18, we were both working full time and doing every Saturday market. We went to, I believe, most Saturday markets in 2018. Yeah, so we did markets on Saturdays in 2018 from basically beginning of May to through December. Yeah, and then in 2019, I was able to quit brewing and go full time in April of 2019, and that's when. And in 2019, we started doing 2 markets a week, and Wednesdays and Saturdays, and basically we've done markets since then. Pretty much most Saturdays. In the wintertime, it goes every other Saturday, but we've been going to market every single week since then for the most part.
Okay, and so the transition's happening right now, it sounds like, and what was the arrangement with the other property, and why did you decide to take on this new property and this new farm? What was the reason there?
So my partner, I run a tree service also I'm 14 years into that with another business partner of mine, and we bought that property together some years back. And um, this is market gardening and the agricultural realm has kind of been my passion for a while, and just trying to get to that point where I can make that my full-time career. And the real estate market is good right now. So Stefan and I, my partner in the tree service, we just recently put our land up for sale. My wife and I and my two kids live there in a house, and we've got 5.5 acres there. And so Beau and I bought this new farm close to about 15 minutes outside of our primary market in Knoxville. We've got 17 acres, and we're just developing, just the market garden right now, which is, anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of an acre. But we wanted to have this be our own place and our own gig, and have be doing this project together and be fully vested into it, and as a team. And so that's what we're doing. We were ready to take that leap and thought we had enough, experience under our belt. This is just still year 4, so we're still really newbies. And but we thought we made plenty of mistakes. We've kind of learned a lot from that, and we were just ready to do it if we were going to do it. We're not getting any younger. I'm 41 and Beau is pushing 40. So we're trying to set this up for for us to be doing this for the next bid, but then also to set it up too as a homestead and more perennial focused going into the future with value added products and things like that we can do a little easier once we get a little older, and slow down a little bit on the high production stuff. But that's what's in demand is the high production, and we've got a lot of demand for fast growing, high value crops. And so that's kind of been our specialty: salad mixes, greens, baby roots, herbs, head lettuces, things like that. So that's kind of been our focus, and trying to diversify that, and trying to take on other things that we don't have a lot of practice yet with, like cucumbers and tomatoes, and really trying to expand that production with the appropriate infrastructure that we'll have here at the new place.
Cool. I know you said earlier, like, hey, let's get into market gardening because we can get some cash flow quickly, and that's definitely true. I mean, a lot of these quick growing crops you can make quite a bit of money from quickly, like with very little inputs, which is awesome. And I've talked about this before, but also like in my own personal experience now, this is kind of the 3rd farm I've built in 4 years, and which is totally crazy. But at the same time, like, you learn so much from each experience, and I think not everyone has the opportunity to basically like start over. So how is that working for you guys? Like, what are some things that you're like, oh, we totally screwed this up, or maybe we got this right and we want to make sure we get this right at the next place? Like, what are some of those takeaways and sort of your approach with the new farm? Can you guys talk on that a little bit?
Drainage was huge. The new farm, or the old farm, it kind of started with one plot, then another plot, then another plot, and it's like, oh, I think we could put another plot there, and we did that, and then a heavy rain event, you get like 5 inches in a couple hours.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, okay, that's not going to work. But that was the big the setup of the new farm initially was driven, I think, on drainage, like setting it up and working on flat level ground.
Efficiency and standardization too. One thing about the property, our old farm, is we kind of, we're on a 1/4 acre, but as far as a cultivated space, but that really kind of snakes throughout quite a long stretch, and it's not really designed for very efficient harvest, planting, and that sort of thing. So like kind of setting it up, the new place for efficiency and all, being standardized, I think was also another driving factor for us. We find ourselves complaining a lot about having different lengths of shade cloth and insect netting and remay and that sort of thing. It's like it's going to be just so much better at the new place, that everything is kind of going to be set up on basically 96-foot beds, because that was what our first tunnel, our high tunnel that we put up. And so we're going to kind of standardize everything to that. They're not going to be quite 100, but we call them 100. But that's kind of a big thing too.
Yeah, the drainage thing cannot be overlooked. I had a lot of conversations with Jesse, and he's talked openly about his drainage issues at his farm this year. And as he started experiencing them, I was like, dude, you have to dig trenches and move the water, because otherwise it'll go everywhere you don't want it to go. And he finally like had a big event, and he's like, okay, I got the rotary plow out. I'm digging the trenches now. And I'm like, yeah, like, especially when you get these rain events that we get in the South, where you get 5 inches quickly or 3 inches quickly, or it causes so much damage. I know you guys are, and so I have 48-foot beds. So there you go. And I call them 50s because I have 2 in a 100-foot tunnel. So that's what I do. I have 48-foot beds. And you guys, from everything I've seen and also talking with you, your production is like crazy high. Just also like pictures, like on social media with like your farmer's market stand and stuff. Like, is tunnel production, like you guys are putting in a bunch of tunnels, is that a big part of it? Is the rain, or what else is motivating you guys to do more tunnels?
Yeah, rain's a big one for sure. I mean, you have more control over the crop in that space, more success, more overall success, to where, and even like, okay, that arugula is ready to harvest tomorrow. Oh crap, we got, a cell that came through with high winds and heavy rain, and you go to want to quick cut greens harvest it, and it's blown over or knocked down due to rain, and you're like, well, I guess I'm hand harvesting that. It's going to take 5 or 10 times as long to do that. But in the tunnel, you're eliminating that factor.
Cleanliness as well as, the product. I mean, the dirtier it is, the longer it takes to clean and post harvest and things. And so we really pride ourselves on trying to have clean product. And the display has always been one of our things at the market. Pile it high, watch it fly. And we were members of Connor Crickmore's Never Sink Farm online course, and there's a lot of psychology involved with people and their buying methods and habits and things. And so we wanted to really set ourselves apart from some of the other growers there in that manner.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if it's just when you get older, but like I just don't want to waste any time, footsteps, energy. And I just constantly think about like, where is this tool? Like, how far away is this thing? Like, like all those things that you guys are sort of talking about that you've learned from your last farm, you can waste so much time just walking to get a tool over and over again, or trying to find the right piece of row cover or irrigation or whatever. So that's awesome that you guys figured that out pretty quickly, and then are like, okay, new farm, set everything up, like, so we're not wasting our time with all this stuff. What about other stuff? Like, yeah, were you gonna say something there, Beau?
No, there's a fruit fly.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
Tomatoes all over this house. So
I thought you were like trying to get my attention. Like, no, I'm just kidding. So what about with the drainage? You guys, was there a lot of earthwork that you guys had to do at the new farm?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, we initially had an excavation company come in and basically we knew where we wanted to put the market garden, and that was going to involve some excavation. So we had 2 big terraces installed. And so we took dirt from up high, pushed it down low, and created kind of 2 pads that are on about a 1% grade. They're about 5 feet difference in elevation. And so we sloped everything. All the beds run 1% downhill into a main drainage ditch, and we're still trying to tweak all those things and making sure we have appropriate drainage between tunnels. A lot of water comes off those structures, and we wanted to be prepared for that. So hopefully what we've got implemented and in place is going to be sufficient enough. But on this kind of a scale, we just don't really know for sure. So we're just keeping an open mind, and if we have to tweak some things even more, we'll have the ability to do that. So, but drainage, huge huge. And if you can hold on to some of that water, and we're going to be putting a pond in down below to be able to catch. Right now, we've kind of got just a little temporary silt kind of catchment pond that's catching some of the silt, but we want to put in a nice pond and have that kind of be the showpiece when you pull into the property, kind of at the bottom with a lot of trees and perennials, and just a very diverse in ecology kind of area around the pond. So lots of peepers, lots of frogs.
Awesome. So obviously earthwork and getting the slope right is awesome. Drainage. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that about tunnels. Like if you think about a house and how much water comes out through the gutters, it's amazing. And so, yeah, like on my farm now, I dug like deep, not really deep, but at least a few inches, trenches on either side of my tunnels that are pitched downhill. Cause when it starts raining, it's like a river out there. Like it's crazy. What about soil? What are you guys doing to build new beds, and what's that process like for you guys?
Well, we before the initial excavation, we scraped off all the topsoil that was there on the slope, and took it and moved it to the bottom of the property. Did the excavation. I don't know if you explained this when I was gone, but then moved that topsoil back. Paul was, we're fortunate too to have. Paul does tree work. He's got a tree service, so he's got a nice little excavator and a dump truck, and he's able to. We just have the ability to do a lot of this stuff ourselves, or Paul does basically, which is great, and we're fortunate. So all that topsoil is then trucked back up onto the plots, the 2 terraces, dumped and respread out. It's not the greatest, but it's better than just a clay hardpan, which is what's there now. So we put that back on, and oh man, the square yards.
Yeah, it probably ended up being anywhere from 800 to 1,000 cubic yards of material that we redistributed onto the growing space. So quite a bit. And
compost was...
and then we applied about 70 cubic yards of compost just to the lower terrace. That's all that we're planning on having into production for this year. We're going to be getting a fall overwintered cover crop on the upper terrace, and then that'll slowly start being in production for next year. But so yeah, quite a bit of material spread, and it's still sometimes I feel like that's not enough. I'd like to have a foot more of topsoil, but we're going to start with that, and we think it's sufficient enough to get going. And we're all about, building soil. So through our composting program, we're going to be doing a lot of that, and hopefully applying many inches per year onto the beds. And so
as of now, though, we're doing, just for the time being, we're adding 2 5-gallon buckets per 10 feet of 30-inch bed every turnover. Well, we haven't turned them over yet, but
that's our plan moving forward.
We put them on. We put that much on initially, and then for the rest of from here on out, we're going to shoot for that until we may tone that back late next year. Or we really want to put as much organic matter in because it needs it for sure. I mean, soil needs it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great investment, not only in the soil, but your farm and the business, and getting as much organic matter in there. It's awesome. And also, what I've realized is like the tunnels also keep it there. Like, so when you get the big rains, you don't lose all that precious organic matter. Can you guys talk a little bit about your compost program and how that's working?
We use a lot of wood chips. Obviously, I have access to almost an unlimited amount, through my tree service, and so that's been a great resource for us as far as carbon goes, and that's our primary resource. It's pretty much the only thing we're using for carbon because we know it's clean. We've had some issues in the past through some homemade compost that we've done prior to really starting the farm with some persistent herbicide. We're not sure if it came in off some sprayed straw that we were collecting fall decorations, or if it was from a guy that was bringing us horse manure, possibly some sprayed alfalfa, that he might have been feeding them. And so it's really hard to find reliable, non-contaminated carbon these days, unfortunately. in our area anyway. So we don't have access to like leaves, which we definitely would like to at some point, maybe try to get that going. But so it's just wood chips and everything that we take out of the beds for our nitrogen sources, which ends up being quite a bit of material. So we were able to compost that with the tractor and break it down for a period of months and do some periodic turning. And then we've even got a vibratory screener that allows us to get that down to run it through basically like a 3/8 inch screen. And so you have a very nice finished product that we can, we're screening all the big woody bits out, and it's been working well for us.
Cool. There's more and more stories I'm hearing about contamination or just not being able to access good compost. Like it's not finished. It's just low quality. It's not what you're looking for. And I think everyone should be making some compost regardless. Like I'm making a small amount here, but like nothing, not nearly as what I need to. It sounds like obviously with your access and, abundance of wood chips, how much compost do you think you can generate in a year?
I really think we could, if we had access to maybe more nitrogen sources.
Right.
I'd love to be able to have access to like some fresh cut pasture, maybe through like a flail collector. That's something that I've thought about a lot behind a tractor. Hey, you let me mow your area and your pasture, and we get access to all that nitrogen. Basically, it wouldn't be a super diverse mix, but you could definitely even customize it. I think we could probably do 100 yards probably relatively easily in a year.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people don't have access to that amount of carbon, or they don't have machinery to do it. So the fact that you can is amazing. Is there a lot of time input that you have to put into it over the course of the year?
It does take some time, but to be honest, it's an enjoyable time for me. Evenings, it's kind of, I can chill out and get on the tractor or whatever. And so it's time off my feet. It's time that I can just kind of, maybe after the girls go to bed, that I can get out there even at nighttime sometimes. So I don't mind at all.
Okay. All right. So here's a question. And if you guys have questions, make sure you guys get them in. Can you guys see that on the screen there too? Since you're setting up a new location, what size beds and paths are being built, and what kind of pathways? You're sticking with what's known or trying something new? So I know you mentioned 30-inch beds, but if you guys want to try to tackle that.
Yeah. So at the old farm, the new farm, everything's 30-inch beds and 15-inch pathways. That's how it's going to be on every plot. The old farm, we had some pathways that I think went down to 8 or 10 in some areas and went up to 15 or 18. But you can work with 8 and 10 inches, but not very comfortably. Especially since if you're on a small land base where you're at a quarter acre and you want to grow some diversity, you're like, oh, well, this year it's all arugula here or whatever, small baby greens. That's easy with a small pathway. But then next year you got sprouting broccoli next to Salanova, and you're squatting down to harvest Salanova, and you're, cracking broccoli leaves or popping onion tops or something like that. So yeah, everything's standardized with at the new places, 15 pathways and 30-inch bed tops. So.
And as of right now, we're just sticking with soil pathways. We've done some, experimenting with wood chips. Obviously, it's something we've always been interested in. We love that fungal plant relationship and what that does for everything. It's nice not to work in the mud as well. So we're already experiencing a little bit of that at the new place, just because we're sticking with the soil. But definitely want to get more into the wood chips, we think.
Yeah, we're probably going to do wood chips. We just don't have a pile of wood chips at plots right now. So if they were there, we'd probably be using them, but one step at a time.
All right. I was laughing because you guys were like, we have unlimited wood chips. And then you're like, we don't have any wood chips.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Just not at that location
we have a
yet.
lot at the bottom of a large hill.
We've actually been exporting them over because I've got some time invested in turning them and breaking them down. So whenever we go over and I haul a machine or something, I'll load up the back of the dump truck, and we try to maximize, because carbon, it's a super precious material to us. So we don't, we've got time invested, and we're not going to be leaving it for anybody when we sell our current farm.
And it's just amazing how a pile of wood chips, like Paul's had piles that just sit there and that aren't even turned, and within 2.5 years, it's just black gold. I mean, you just scrape off a little bit on the top, and everything is just beautiful soil underneath there. And and even if we don't get to those wood chip piles that are at the bottom of our new property for quite some time, it's almost like money in the bank.
I've noticed that too, even because I get wood chips dropped in my driveway because I live in a suburban area, and that's the only place they can bring it. And, they drop a dump truck, and it takes me, if I'm not building a farm, like, it takes me a while to go through a pile. And I notice even, especially in the summer, like within a few months, just with the amount of rain we get, it's like almost soil at the bottom I'm not even turning it. Like, it's just sitting there. It's incredible. And I'd be curious, especially because I know a lot of people are buying in like myself, buying in compost that's usually very bacterially dominated. And then you're going to, for me, I had the wood chips in the walkways. Like, do you think it'll be a point where there's like too much fungal life, or are you going to be adding more bacteria, or like, have you thought about that at all? Like, if you add wood chips on top, like in the walkways next to your basically like wood chip based, I don't know if that's an issue for some crops.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something that we haven't thought about, just because we think the soil is so bacterially dominated, and we're still causing a lot of disruption with the tilter or the precision depth roller on the back of the BCS. So we're doing that light surface cultivation. So I think it's stimulating that bacteria there, and probably getting a lot of die off of the fungal community, maybe on those bed edges that may have wood chips on them. But we're going to try to create a nice happy balance, whatever that is. We're still newbies, and we're really wanting to start working with the soil agronomist and at the new place, and those are things on our list to do, and hope to go into some more in-depth conversations, and hope to just kind of follow with the no-till community and see what everybody else comes up with as well. So we're relying on everybody else as well.
Yeah, we all keep sharing and telling stories and what works and what doesn't work. And what I found over the last few years is that most of the compost that you can get is, there's not as much carbon in it, and it doesn't work well when you put down a lot of it, because it's not meant to be used that way. It's meant to be added as an amendment or tilled in or that sort of thing. So I was lucky enough last winter to buy compost that was half leaf mold, and it's been incredible. Like, it's so much better than anything I've used in the past. So I bet you guys are going to be real happy with the makeup of the compost, and especially because you guys made it. That's even cooler.
Yeah, we did buy three loads of straight leaf mold locally, which is just Knox County municipal leaves that's brought to another facility. It's Living Earth.
Yeah, Living Earth,
and it's just turned leaves. It came in pretty hot. It still needs some time, but
that was what we initially incorporated in that 70 yards into the growing space. So
along with broken down wood chips and composted crop matter and wood chips.
Cool. All right, let me I got a couple questions in here, and then I have more stuff to talk about, obviously, but I want to get to questions. John saying, are you multi-sowing your beds, tunnels, or keeping each bed to set crop and then rotating it after harvest?
We do some intercropping.
Is that what he's asking?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Versus do one and then pull it out, put the next crop in.
Yeah. We do some intercropping. The big one's radish for intercropping with us, and we do also like to do our cherry tomatoes with basil along the edges. that's worked out well. The basil spaced much farther apart than normal, kind of off centered from the cherry tomatoes. But we've done that every year now with them, and we've liked that setup.
Not a whole lot of intercropping though, but maybe not as much as we like. But something that we still need to get a lot more practice in with, and
I think with the high tunnel though, we're going to have a lot more of that for the transition from spring to summer crops. Like have like a late spring beet with and then transplant our tomatoes in between, or something along those lines.
Relay cropping, as you guys I think refer to it as.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Yeah, there's so much. It's so much fun. I got really into it earlier in the year, and this summer's been really tough, so I have not been doing it. But yeah, I had some really cool interplants. Some things worked, some things didn't work. But yeah, the good candidates are things like peppers, tomatoes, those kinds of things that take a while. Even when you put them in as a transplant, like they're going to take a while before they shade out. So, I planted beets right next to my peppers, and I got 2 rows of beets in a bed of peppers that, I usually get 3 rows of beets. So it was like between, it's 2/3 of a bed of beets I got basically for free out of that bed. And when you're on smaller acreage, it adds up, increases diversity in the beds. But you have to, one thing I have to say is like, you have to really know each crop really well and the timing of each at a certain time of year, because like I did some together and it was like, nope, that didn't work. Like one just destroys the other one, or, overtakes it. But yeah, radishes are great because they're so in and out. Are you able to sell them at market, radishes? I know they're not the easiest crop to sell everywhere. So
we've been utterly amazed at how many radishes.
That's awesome. Yeah, plant them everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We have sold, we sold 100 bunches of radishes easily at the downtown Knoxville Farmers Market before. Yeah.
Okay. Any radish varieties in particular that have been successful for you guys?
Crunchy King. That's all we do is Crunchy King.
Okay.
We can do it all year long. The quality does obviously go down in the summer, but we're still sowing them every week.
As far as like smaller radishes, Crunchy King, and then we definitely do some, watermelon and purple daikon. And
yeah, we love the storage radish too.
Storage radish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And John was also commenting about being a Cubs fan, so yeah. But you mentioned being from Chicago, so there you go. And you're wearing a Cubs hat. All right. Let's see here. Did you run into any disease issues or lack of proper crop rotation in a small area, especially since so many quick crops are brassicas? How do you guys handle that?
Definitely see issues when we're doing a lot of high turnover brassicas, arugula, Asian greens, things like that. Those are some of our primary mainstays during the main season. It's if we've got space, arugula is number one, and then if we've got space, definitely Asian greens as well, baby Asian greens, radish too. You see them suffering, turnips as well, and a lot of the things that we do. We just try to move things around as much as we can, but it's really tough on a small space. So we're really looking forward to having a little more ground to play with, and possibly that's going to allow us to take either little blocks out to do some cover cropping, or maybe just do some individual beds like with the earthway or something, to hopefully kind of give some of those high brassica areas that we run a little bit of a break, and still trying to figure all that out.
Yeah, on the super small scale at the quarter acre, and those are our kind of our money making crops, our baby brassicas, and majority of the farm is brassicas. And then we run into an issue with them in one area of the farm, and we don't have a lot of area to play with to move them to. So we move them to a new area. Then we just felt like we were like, okay, we're just going to exhaust this area with the brassicas. Oh yeah, and
shout out to Brianna. Hey, Brianna.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah. She's one of the new kids on the block. She's one of our favorite new grow. She's our favorite new grower at our market.
Yeah. Yeah. Brianna's
awesome.
Great. Yeah. but we've done that before where we've been forced to kind of like, okay, this area we're going to do 3 rotations of baby greens on these 8 beds for the next, what would that be, 9 weeks, because we ran into other issues in other plots of the farm, whether it be uh, just soil, or I don't even know what it was. This was a couple of years ago. And by that 3rd rotation, wow, huge difference in germination rate, quality of the crops, just growth rate, disease, everything. I mean, we saw a big difference for sure.
And part of that has to do with just a little bit later in the season. It's heating up, humidity's increasing substantially, and when a lot of those crops we grow under insect netting, the protect net, and there's not as much airflow, and we've had some difficulties a little bit with. We like the quality of the product if the weather cooperates with, say, something like arugula under insect netting, but you take that same crop and put it under a tunnel under insect netting, and we really don't have as good results. If the crop gets a little bit leggy and it wants to reach, you don't get that leaf size that we're looking for, get too much stem, and so that's been a little bit of a challenge for us with those kind of crops in particular.
Plus the lack of airflow. You get a little bit of rot and it's just going to spread. And, the protect net in the tunnel is just lack of airflow too.
Yeah, you have to be really careful with irrigation too, because if you over irrigate in the tunnel, like it's not like being out in the open. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. People ask me about crop rotation all the time on smaller acreage, and I always say like, yeah, I just don't plant the same crop twice, or I plant from different families. Like if I'm pulling out a brassica, I'll put in lettuce. If I'm pulling out lettuce, I'll put a carrot in, or something like that, where I just rotate. But the hard part there is then managing blocks of beds that need to be treated differently. Like if you can, do a whole tunnel of brassicas, get them in and out, and then switch the whole tunnel over, well then shade cloth, irrigation, insect netting, like all that stuff you can handle that. So it gets really tricky on small acreage. For sure. That's something that is always tough because I'll pull something out and I'm like, all right, I have lettuce next to peppers. And I'm like, well, that's great, except I want to miss the lettuce to keep it cool in the summer, but I don't want to miss the peppers. So it becomes a struggle.
Yeah. We run into that all the time.
Yeah. Well, now you guys will have more land. This is going to feel like a huge farm. If you've been on a quarter acre going out to, what do you guys say, 2/3 or 3/4 or something?
2/3 to 3/4, yeah. Just depends on what we end up with on that top terrace, and so yeah.
Yeah, another thing too we should talk about is we started the farm with nothing but overhead
irrigation.
So and now the new farm is going to have every bed will have drip with kind of mobile overhead units, or we're going to do the micro sprinklers in the tunnels as well, that they won't be used all that much, mainly for salinova and for, the shoulder seasons and cooling in the summer. But that was a big thing. Yeah. With the protect net on arugula in a caterpillar tunnel with only overhead created a lot of rot in July.
Yeah. Totally.
In August.
Yeah. I mean, I was a huge fan of overhead when I first started farming because I was like, I hate drip tape. I just hate managing it. I like if I'm harvesting by hand, I always wind up cutting a line every once in a while. But now I'm just like, you just have to have both. Like you just have to have both if you're going to be successful. Like you need the misting abilities, and drip, like for so many crops, drip is just so much better. So yeah, totally. And I did get the overhead system in the tunnels, and it's like brilliant. Like you just push, I just push a button and it mists. Like it's irrigation and all that stuff just saves so much energy and allows you to really dial things in. So you have, so drip is everywhere. And then you got, how's the water source of the new place? You guys have city water? You guys on a well? What's that like?
We're on a well.
Okay. And you guys have enough water?
There was an existing well there, and it just had a kind of a regular, residential 10-gallon a minute pump on it. So we upgraded that and worked with a local well driller, and he'd worked with some other local farms and kind of set us up with what he recommended. So we've got we've got like a 20 gallon per minute pump on now, and
Cool.
I think that's going to be sufficient enough for our needs. And also want to have some backup plans, possibly when we get that pond installed at some point, to have some cisterns and to be able to store water a little higher on the landscape. It's definitely something we've got in mind too.
Cool. All right, we got some more questions in here. I could talk about irrigation and water management. Well, you know Daniel?
Yeah, we know Daniel too.
Oh, wow, you guys, it's just all your buddies in here tonight. All right. So how do you guys approach the financials, investment, balance as partners in the business?
Business is not our strong point, first off.
We just want to be out there growing, we don't really like that and like that as much. Beau's wife is pretty good, and she's got a business background and runs a local business here. So we kind of lean on her for some of those things. And in the beginning, initially we were just kind of basically like, we were bootstrapping the farm, and so we were just putting in equal amounts of money into the farm, and we've approached it that way. As far as investments, we're definitely going big, and we've invested a lot of our own money into the farm, and feel that was the approach that we needed to take to be able to make it a viable business moving forward that can support. One day we're hoping to support both families off of the farm, off of that one piece of land, and with the other enterprises that we'd like to get into.
Cool. And so you said you're still living at that other property. Are you guys planning on moving onto this property eventually? And you said you had 17 acres. So is that sort of the plan?
Yeah, that's the plan. We've got 2 plots of land that we're going to be subdividing this fall from the initial 17 acres. So we'll both just take kind of equal amounts of land and
be building there.
Yeah, be building there. And luckily with Paul's background, we've been able to clear a lot of tree, because it was pretty dense forest in the areas we're going to build, and we've already been able to clear a lot of those trees in those areas we want to build in. So
that's awesome. Man, you guys got such a beautiful thing going on. I love it. It's just, I think farming in general, I'm not saying that in a cheesy way, but I think so much in farming, people take on things by themselves, and I think you can be so much stronger, so much more powerful as a community, as a business, when you work together. And I think a lot of farmers feel very alone, and I think, you may have your family, but you guys have a much stronger relationship and situation between the two of you guys and your different backgrounds. So I don't know. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I was giggling because when you say beautiful, it's like you should have been out there the last few days.
Yeah, why is that? Just the weather and stuff, or
it's just been moving the farm and we've been doing a deer fence project, and I don't.
It's definitely overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't want to become
it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't want to become the shrink over here, but
this is beautiful
though. What are some struggles, I guess, that you guys have, in terms of running this business together, making decisions? You kind of Beau's really good at this, Paul's really good at this, or you just trust each other, and just how does that whole division happen? Is one of you more into harvesting, one of you more into planting? Where does that happen, or where's the friction there? How does that work?
Well, by default, because I'm on the farm more because Paul is working another job, so the harvest is pretty much equal, especially for the last 2 years, because we've only been harvesting for a Saturday market. And Paul's days off are, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So
from the tree
service, and he's on the farm those days. And so, just by default, I'm doing a majority of, I guess, the planting and a lot of the cultivation.
Planting, online store, Beau does. He works with the restaurants and
general communication with customers and anyone really. But any decision we make, we usually talk about. Even small decisions, we shoot each other a text on. Big decisions, we obviously talk a lot more about. There's a lot of us talking and then staring at each other and then looking around and then staring at each other and then talking. And that's kind of how we've always done it. And it's worked so far. Everything's working out. So, because all this stuff is all of it's new to us. We've never done it before. Like farming, we've never even, we started the farm without even visiting another farm. I was working in Colorado on a really small, it was like a 40 by 90 garden. So, neither of us have ever even visited a farm before we started the market garden. So yeah, it was a lot of just, how do we do this? And yeah, that one, the beer kicked in.
Thankfully, I'll say this. I'll say we're super appreciative to live in these times for those reasons, where everybody likes to share information, and there's so many good resources out there. And Elliot Coleman, he was one of my first influences, and of course JM and Curtis. Obviously, we modeled a lot of our farm after his kind of high value, quick growing type stuff, urban farm, but in a rural setting. Basically is what we did. But thankful for all that information out there. I can't imagine starting a farm 20 years ago with no farming background. I think that would have just been an instant failure almost.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way. I mean, I started farming in 2018, like winter of 17, 18, I started getting started. And I mean, think even 10 years ago, like there's a few books and that's kind of it. And then how do you meet other farmers doing this kind of farming? And the community has been so special. And not everybody's open to sharing. I wish more people were. I mean, I meet a lot of people and they're like, no, you can't come to my farm, or I don't want to talk to you, or I won't tell you how to do this thing. And I don't know. That's not how I approach it. So I'm really appreciative of people that do, because I'm like, what do you want to know? Like everything I do is online. Like I'm not hiding anything here, But I think that's super cool that you guys, were able to just get that rolling. That's very cool.
Yeah, we wouldn't have a farm without farmers sharing, like Paul said, we wouldn't be where we're at without the community, really.
Big shout out to our farmers market too, the Market Square Farmers Market in Knoxville. I mean, they put on probably one of the best in the South, I would imagine, and we probably wouldn't have a farm without them either. So we always try to pay our dues and show appreciation when it comes to those people. They got a lot of good volunteers and a lot of good people on their paid staff. So nonprofit. It's run by Nourish Knoxville is the nonprofit, and they run a few markets around town. So they do an awesome job.
So you guys have a really strong farmers market. Is that roughly like what percentage of that is your sales? I know you mentioned restaurants as well.
I think this year it's kind of been, what do you think, like 75,
80%.
Yeah, 75, 80. But in years past, it was 90, 95%, if not more. But we built some really solid relationships with some great restaurants that buy from us every week. And it's, we only work with just a few because we're so small, and we want to do the right. They've been with us for a while, and we want to treat them right. And because we've really built up great relationships with some restaurants in Knoxville as well.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I only sell to chefs right now, and it's a lot of fun. I also like packaging things in larger quantities. It makes my life a lot easier. When you're putting salad mix in 5-ounce bags or 2-pound bags, like it moves a lot of product a lot faster out the door. So I definitely appreciate it. And I think it's nice you guys have a balance between the two, because then, it's more diverse for the business. I'm going to get to a couple more questions here. I don't want to, neglect the people hanging out, asking in the chat. That's part of the reason why we do this, is have people be able to interact with all these cool farmers. So, do you guys filter the water? And if so, how?
The only filter we have is just our mesh filters on our drip systems, and that's it. Just for the well. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It's something we've talked about, but haven't gotten any further along than that. But I think after we get going, hopefully in the next couple of years, maybe we'll focus more into that. And as far as like the hardness of the water, I think that, from everything that we've read and heard about on podcasts that can have a lot of effect on crop health and soil health.
I think most of the time, as long as your water is potable and pretty clean, like the main thing you got to focus on is getting the sediment out, because that can cause havoc in your drip, but also in all the valves and solenoids and stuff like in your water system, because things won't be able to shut off after a while and those sorts of things. So, okay. John's got another question for you guys. Looking down the road, what's the maximum acreage do you guys think you'll have in production at the new farm?
In field crops, it'll be 3/4 of an acre will be max, but we do want to incorporate really probably a small amount, not even really a measurable amount of maybe some berries and some orchard crops and perennials. Yeah, asparagus is a big one.
Okay. Are there plans for other things at the farm too? Are you guys like setting up? Did you guys say you were setting up a store or want to set up a store, or is that like a dream, or like what's that? How's that going? Or is that still a thing?
That is still a thing. Yeah, we want to put up a kind of a multifunctional building on the farm. When we bought the property, there was a old dilapidated trailer, but it was an excavated level area kind of below where we have the farm now. And it's kind of a good space for us to put up. The goal is to put up a building that'll be wash pack, cold storage, other controlled rooms, temperature controlled rooms for winter storage crops and things like that. And also in the front of it, have it be a farm store eventually, where we sell our stuff along with other local products, meats and things like that.
David Williams from Sunset Market Garden. Shout out to you, buddy, if you're watching. He's a huge influence on what we do. We've went to visit his farm last year, and he's got a real similar setup to what we'd like to do. He's got that multifunctional building, and he's doing a great job over there on a small space, and a lot of tunnel production. So
yeah, and having a climate controlled wash pack is just incredibly hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, David's incredible. If you guys don't know David Williams of Sunset Market Gardens, go follow him. If you're nearby, go stop by. I've done a bunch of filming with David on my channel and also at No Till Growers. And yeah, the experience at his farm store is very unique. And during COVID, like he stopped going to the farmer's market and just did his store. And people line up before they open. I don't remember what time he opens, but I was there one day and like people were lined up, and someone came in and was like, "Oh, I didn't get the whatever. I was like 12th in line. I'm so mad." And I'm like, he's cultivated this like amazing customer base. Yeah, David. I don't know if David's watching, but big shout out to David Williams. I know he's inspiring a lot of people. He's just such a quality human as well. He's such a nice guy. His whole family is just awesome. Mm-hmm. But the climate controlled wash station, man, like. I converted most of my garage into a wash pack station. You guys know I'm like in the suburbs, like I'll make it work. And then last year at Raleigh City Farm, it was covered, but it was open. And it was like, it was just brutal. Like it's not just the heat, but like if you're trying to dry greens and it's humid outside, good luck. Like you can leave it under the fans or in the spinner for all day and it doesn't dry.
Mm-hmm. That's what we've been battling, so we're so ready for that building when we can get to it. And right now we're just going to set up another kind of temporary space in a tunnel, basically a temporary wash pack that will be like a propagation space later on. But we're ready for that climate controlled greens washing. There's many weeks where we're doing over 100 pounds. So that's a lot to do in the middle of summer outside.
Yeah, I use my garage and I have an air conditioner in there, but I have this like wonky setup and I have to leave the garage door open a little bit. And like after an hour or two, it starts warming up in there. And I'm like, having climate controlled wash station, and especially if you're doing winter growing, I mean, it's just as bad if you're trying to do wet work in the winter, like that's brutal as well. So
it's cold hands, man.
You can't, they don't move.
They don't work in the winter.
When you're putting your hands in your water to warm them up, that what are you doing right now?
You're questioning your decisions. Life choices. All right, we got a couple more questions in here. Jay's asking, hey guys, this is kind of a hard question, but I'm an Air Force pilot retiring in 5 years. How can I best utilize my capital and time to be the most successful when I leave the military?
Man, we're not financial advisors, bro.
Yeah, you guys said we're not business guys. But no, I think this is a good question we can talk about because like both of us, I mean, me and both of you guys have basically started farms from scratch with not a lot of money. So we've had to be very careful with how we've invested in it. So I guess that's kind of what he's going for. Not like, hey man, it's Bitcoin? Is that cool? Or no.
Soil and functional facilities.
Infrastructure, soil. Like if you can pick, if you don't need to be close to, it just depends on where you want to be. But yeah, if you've got good capital or access to capital, man, really look for good soil, a site with good drainage, utilities, obviously, and invest in your infrastructure, and also go work with a farmer for a year or two, somebody that's really good in your area that you think does a good job and is relatively successful. I mean, we wish we would have had that opportunity when we started. We would be much further ahead, we think. But those are some of the things that we would look for.
Yeah, try to set it up, as well as you can from the beginning. Don't spread things out. If you need to, if you're looking for land to grow the business, find the land as soon as you can, and start developing it as soon as you can. And get things ready for you to be hitting the ground running when you're ready to.
Read some Ben Hartman books.
Yeah,
we love what he's doing, and try to implement some of that stuff. But lean farming techniques, being in the military, I'm sure he's probably pretty well organized and in an efficient manner. So,
yeah. So I have a video coming out tomorrow morning that's covering some of the stuff. So check that out, Jay. But that's all ready to go for the morning. But yeah, I think in terms of I think his question is more about capital. And I think I'd like to, just say, I'd say tunnels and soil. Those are my two, depending where you are, of course. But I think those are the two biggest things I'd want to spend money on as a new farmer. Tools, you don't need that many tools. Wash stations are pretty cheap if you really break it down. You can set up a nursery real easy. You can even use grow lights in a rack if you really want to. It's to me, it's like the big things I would want to invest in are tunnels and soil. That's what I've thought. And irrigation is not that expensive, and you can water by hand when you get started, at least a little bit. So you can bootstrap a lot, but that's what I'd recommend. Anyways, it sounds like you guys are kind of on the same page with that. All right, let's see here. Jay says, thank you. Absolutely, Jay. All right, let's see. Maybe a couple more questions. I know we're just over 9 o'clock here. Are there any side projects you guys wish to add someday? I know you mentioned already talking about the store, the building, like managing your own hives for honey, getting a small orchard to go along with vegetables, and I'll tack in animals. Are you guys thinking about that at all too?
Yeah, actually all of those things are on the radar, but not necessarily for profit, really.
Okay.
We really want to add. We would love to have our own bees and take care of the bees and have our own honey and have the pollinators. We do want to set up some orchards and things, but they're going to be also aesthetic as well as we'll be getting food from them, but it'll be mainly probably for our own families. But we want to incorporate them in the landscape of the lower part of the farm that people can kind of walk around in and hang out in. And then we also want to put some accommodations in our woods in the back of the property, which will also be functional for, the guests that come can kind of walk around the farm. They can walk around the orchard area. They can grab an apple or whatever we're growing down there at any point. So more aesthetically, but also for our own families, we really want to have fruits and things and an orchard and honey and things like that. And the animals, again, too, we want to have some animals, but mainly for ourselves. Like we want to have a couple pigs to run through the forest. We always are going to have laying hens. We always do a batch of meat birds for ourselves every year. What do you have to add to that?
One of the big things that we're interested in is fermented vegetables, and we do. We really like. There's a farm out in the Midwest, and it's Fair Share Farm as well. Not Elliot and his
Emma.
wife, but Emma in North Carolina. But they're out in I think
they're in Kansas, I think, or
Missouri, Oklahoma, or Missouri maybe.
Yeah,
but
and anyway, also called Fair Share.
Yeah, Fair Share. They've got a nice little fermenting biz going, and that's something that we'd like to incorporate into our farm, especially as we get a little bit older and kind of picture ourselves out there working till 12 or 1, and then getting inside and processing some cabbage for some good artisanal krauts and things like that to sell at the local market. So that's one of the projects we.
Okay. I mean, I was going to ask, like, I didn't hear fermentation at all with Beau's background, so there you go. That sort of, you answered my question for me. You're like, oh, we're just going to slip a little brew pub in there, small system,
Never know.
Yeah, you never know, right? So I want to ask you about one other thing, which I think I really just want to start having more discussions with farmers about this, especially as I think we're all three of us are kind of within a year or two of each other. What's up with summer? Like, how's that going for you guys? Like, it's been brutal. Like, our heat wave, I don't know, the last 2 weeks has been over 90 like every day, and it doesn't cool off at night. I think the weather's supposed to break tomorrow, but how have you guys been handling the summer this year, or even in the past few years?
Every year we're taking August off next year.
Really?
Yeah, but it never happens.
No, okay. No, because I am. So.
Yeah, that's. I remember in 2019 we had a huge drought, and we had our hottest day of the year in October, I believe, and it was 99 degrees on October 7th, and it was hot all of September and all of summer. And I just remember transplanting cauliflower in late July, early August, and being like, these plants don't seem like they should go in right now, but they have to. Yeah, it's brutal. It's and that, I was joking, but every year we were like, man, wouldn't it be great to take August and September, mid-July to mid-September off, but you still got to plant stuff for the fall in that time too.
It'd be nice to get to a point where we could kind of take off from selling, kind of like we've done basically this year, where we planned it out to where we were harvesting the last of our crops off the old farm in late July, and then taking August off in the beginning of September. We're going back to market here in about a week and a half. But we've kind of done that, but it's still been brutal. It's still we had about a 10-day stretch where, the heat index was over 100 or 105, and that's pretty tough.
Yeah, it's torturous when it's 3:30, 4 o'clock, and you're out there all day, and like you said, yeah, you're like, I've drinking a gallon and a half of water,
and I'm hungover already. Yeah.
I haven't peed since this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've mentioned this before, but I am going to be taking July and part of August off next summer. But I think one of the struggles that we have, not only physically trying to be out there farming, is that the plants, the biology, like in the South, it kind of goes from summer to winter because there isn't really much of a fall from what I've experienced, because it's so hot so late in the year that by the time it cools off, there's no light. So like you have to, you don't have that like lights going down a little bit. It's a little bit cooler. Like you have to plan out when it's 95 degrees outside for fall crops. I think that's really challenging, and I think the plants really suffer from it. So I don't know if there's a way around it, but at least we can try to take care of ourselves out in the heat a little bit. I don't know. I just like to have more conversations about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and we love fall crops. I mean, that's like when we're harvesting those crops, we're like, this is the life right here. Temperature's great. They've pulled through from transplant, and they're maturing greatly, and they taste great. Everything's tasting good. Everything's getting ready for winter. but getting to that point is really hard with those crops.
Yeah, we've struggled this year with moving the farm and everything going on, and put in some transplants that were really too big, and they're suffering. So I think that seems to be a key, is to be able to get transplants in at a little bit of a younger stage. We like the soil blocks too, where you get real limited soil disturbance. We think that's probably a key for late summer transplanting fall crops, and just making sure you got plenty of moisture on the ground, but still, shade cloth.
Yeah.
A lot of shade cloth, and we'd love to have more air movement. If we could figure out a good efficient way to move air through those tunnels, or I don't know. We've seen some setups where people are putting fans in them, so that's got to help. And that little bit of shade too, obviously from the plastic, but more air movement we think is key if we can figure that out.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot too. Where I am, I mean, it's great. I don't have a lot of wind because I don't have to worry about my tunnels kind of blowing away and all the issues that you have, like if you're up on a ridge or in an open field. But like, it's stagnant in there a lot. Like, I'll go in there, everything's wide open, my end's completely open, my sides are up all the way, and it's just toasty in there. So there's just no air movement. Well, cool. I mean, I just love talking to growers. I mean, it sounds like we're kind of in similar climates. So you guys are kind of just directly west of me, I think. And just hearing what people are doing, because it's getting it's challenging for sure.
Right. And a high tunnel would, if we could grow everything in a high tunnel, like transplanting fall crops, if that crop warranted to go into one of our high tunnels, we would definitely transplant them into it. But it's not a high value crop, broccoli or cauliflower, these bigger transplants, or even kale. But because our high tunnel we've got, exhaust fans and they're automatic roll up sides and all kinds of stuff. If we could transplant those crops in there to make it financially viable to use that space, we would. I think that would be a big help for all those crops, because the air movement and the protection, a little bit of shade that plastic offers and things like that.
Well, maybe you guys will have more high tunnels within a few years. All right, so
it's hard to get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so maybe this will be the last question. I am organic gardening says, what do you like for weed control? What are you guys doing basically for that? What's your strategy there?
So this year's been a little bit different. Setting up the new farm, we're using a lot of landscape fabric, which we have used none in the past, really, other than just the perimeters of some of our plots, but really nothing on beds. We use the paper pot system a lot, so that throws that right out the window. But just a lot of cultivating, wire weeders, cleaning your hose. But wire weeder, we like that never sink wire weeder with the interchangeable heads on it for the different crop spacing. Minimal disturbance. So that's one of the big advantages of being no-till or just shallow till with the tilter or the depth roller, is when you're not going down deep, bringing up new weed seeds, you're diminishing that seed bank all the time if you're doing a good job at staying on top of cultivation.
Yep. Also, we flame weed our carrots. We've got the little never sink 15-inch flame weeder. So this time of year, it's day 5 after sowing. We'll run over the top with the flame weeder. But cultivation is huge. I mean, once a week, starting in spring to fall, once a week, the whole farm gets cultivated.
Yeah, and if you stay on top of it like that, it's not hard to do. It's not stressful. It's not annoying. It's just, you just run your hose through there. You're standing upright. You're not leaning over, pulling things out. And yeah, I think we got in the habit last year at Raleigh City Farm. We used to cultivate, I think it was like once a week, and it would take, I don't know, two of our interns, maybe like 45 minutes to a quarter acre, like just not stressful, kind of a relaxing hour. And you just stay on top of it for sure. And then, yeah, as you said, minimal soil disturbance is huge. And I think also landscape fabric, I think, gets a bad rap, obviously, because it's, plastic and all that stuff, but it can be used in certain situations for sure. And it allows you to get weeds under control and still have photosynthesis going on. So there are times where, it's a good thing. So I don't want to keep you guys too long tonight, but do you guys have anything else that you'd like to talk about, or that we missed, or you guys want to expand on?
I can't think of anything.
We're just appreciative of all the work you guys are doing at the No-Till Growers, the team of you guys, and we've been excited to watch it grow these past couple of years, and I'm sure a lot of other people are super thankful that you guys are doing what you're doing. You're providing a lot of great content, and I think you're inspiring a lot of young farmers to go out and crush it. So shout out to you guys.
Thanks so much, guys. It takes everybody, the whole community, and for people like yourselves that give us evenings and time for podcasts and live streams and discussions and all that. So it's everybody, and we couldn't do it without our supporters, our Patreon members who help us fund all the stuff that we do, and everyone involved. There's just so much abundance. It's just incredible. So I want to thank you guys for coming tonight. I really appreciate it, and it's good and cool to catch up. I know I when I met you guys a couple years ago, you guys were like just getting going, and I feel like, well, you're just getting re-going, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, I'm really excited for you guys, and I can't wait to follow along. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, guys, please go check out Beau and Paul. Their information is down below in the description. I really appreciate them coming on tonight and hearing their story. As I said during the show, they just definitely have a beautiful thing going on, and it sounds like they're just got harmony and really like small profitable business that they're really enjoying running. So anyways, guys, thanks so much. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and have a great night.